LoveBabz LoveTalk. Happy Tuesday. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy, and I'm delighted to talk to Reverend Kelcy Steele of Varick A.M.E. Church. Varick Memorial Zion A.M.E. Church. Did I get that right?
Varick Memorial A.M.E. Zion Church.
Oh, I was lost if I had to bet money on that. How are you? I don't think I've ever met you, but I've heard good things about you.
Oh, you as well. I'm doing well.
I'm glad to hear it. So I got wind of you because you're new to Varick. We're kind of new to Varick, right? You're new to Varick, and Varick is
yes,
when did you come?
About 4 years ago.
Okay, well, that's not very new, but still very new. You think?
Yes, it's new to New Haven. I came from Los Angeles, so it's a culture shock.
Well, now, where are you from originally? Because I hear accent, and it sounds very Southern.
Rock Hill, South Carolina.
I know Rock Hill, South Carolina. You know how I know Rock Hill, South Carolina? Because I went to Barbara Scotia College in Concord, North Carolina.
Okay, I pastored in Concord for about 5 years in Kannapolis, North Carolina.
I know Kannapolis well, yes, and Concord and Livingston, Salisbury, and just outside of Charlotte, all those places. So,
wow.
So welcome. Nice to see you. So, y'all had a big march, which was quite interesting and beautiful to see. You hosted a march, and I almost want to say, Reverend Steele, that it is not churches these days that are leading these kinds of marches.
Yeah, you're correct. You are definitely correct, and so, but it's in our long tradition. And so I felt that it was necessary, and it was a vision that the Lord gave me, call us together in solidarity. And so I couldn't wait on other churches or other leaders to get on board. I just had to, go with the moment.
And so when you got when you got the good word from the Lord, what exactly was it? Like, what was the thinking? What was on your heart and mind about what was happening? What was the thing that was troubling you or bringing awareness to you?
One of the things was the quietness of the church and the quietness of the white community, because I posted a quote on my Facebook a while ago. It says that justice will not be served unto those who are unaffected or as outraged as those who are. And so I didn't just want to raise the Black consciousness, but I wanted to also raise the white consciousness, because it's going to take both of those consciousnces heightened in order to combat and eradicate racism. And so I just wanted to call everybody together.
So all right, so you wake up and you say, you know what? We're going to have a march.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Who do you call first? Who do you call? And then what does the congregation say? Because it's been a while since I've seen churches lead marches of this magnitude.
Yeah, but Varick is one of those churches like, Pastor, we ready. and so they're a bunch of foot soldiers. And so if it's social justice, if it's activism, they're ready for it. No questions asked. But the first thing I did, I began to call my partners that I've been doing things with. The first person I called was Judy at the Jewish Federation, because we worked together to give out over 60,000 masks at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I called her. I called my brother over at Bethel A.M.E. I called Stephen Cousins, and
who was a great guy and a good friend of mine.
Yes, wonderful people. And then from there, people just been calling me everywhere, and 22 organizations signed on to the Social Justice Collaborative that I found. And the march was our first project, and people are still calling, elected officials, business owners, and so it just grew. It blew up. My main thing was to bring us together as a community, and hear from those community leaders, hear from the young people as to how they're feeling during this moment, and it just blew up and turned into something major. And so that's how the march came about.
Churches leading marches is in our history. And so in the absence of not having that, it has made protesting seem very, very different from where I sit. And then Varick says, okay, we see there's a lack of some kind of church leadership. We're going to do it. We're going to jump in and we're going to invite people.
Mm-hmm.
I think Babz froze there a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard her question, but if you want to talk about something, I would suggest you do it now because we're actually on radio.
Okay. Basically, about the march. I really felt like our community and our country was grieving, and so in the midst of that grief, I thought that march would be a great way to display unity and solidarity, and as well as bring to light what was going on in our nation as a result to the George Floyd murder.
Now, you mind if I start asking you questions?
Oh no. I'm free to answer.
So, why was this one different?
Well, this one was different because my buddies, I love my Black Lives Matters movement buddies. I met with them yesterday. We was in the parking lot. We was kicking it. Because sometimes in our community there are we view them as fractions, but we have to understand that we all have a different sphere influence. And so Black Lives Matters, they can influence a different group of people than perhaps I can. And sometimes, the church, they don't participate unless they are calling it or they are initiating it. And so it made it different because we brought together people from all sectors, businesses, organizations, elected officials. And so not to say that either one of us, had the best march or are competing against one another, but understanding that we all reach a different group and demographics of people. But we are in communication with one another.
Well, that's so. So, do you think? And forgive me because I had some technical problems. I kind of lost you for a minute, or at least my system shut down. But I'm back in. So, does this usher in a new sense of communicating with the community? Does this usher in another level of church leading these kinds of things?
I believe that it does, but one of the reasons that I formed the Social Justice Collaborative is that this is beyond the church, and it takes all sectors to come together. And so this collaborative that I founded is interfaith leaders, but business leaders, social justice leaders, social leaders at the table. Because a lot of times when you say the church, it excludes a group of people, because no matter how Black we are, we have to realize that all of us don't go to church. And that's just the reality. And we have to find a way to bridge our entire community.
That's a good point. So tell me a little bit about your background and your history. How were you raised, and where'd you go to school, and who are your people?
Okay, my history. Rock Hill, South Carolina, on the outskirts, a little community called Newport. Grandma, auntie, uncles, everybody lived in a segregated community, just family. And so if I wanted to eat dinner 3 times a day, I just can get on my road and just walk from house to house. That's how close we were. And from there, and the only time that I had to really deal with people of other races or people outside of my family was when I went to school or when I went to church. But of course, in that day and time, church was family as well. And so I went to high school at Northwestern High School. Then from there, I went to technical college at York Tech, and I took technology. Thank God, because who would have thought that church would be limited to a Zoom account and a Facebook Live. And so I'm glad that I got a little bit of technology. And then from there, I went to Shaw University. I did the satellite.
I know Shaw. Yes, yes.
When I was pastoring in Kannapolis, North Carolina, Bethel A.M.E. Zion Church. I went to Shaw, and then from there, I went to United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio. And so I was doing flying there for 2 weeks and doing online. And then during that time, I was transferred to Los Angeles, California to pastor the first A.M.E. Zion Church. And then from there, when this Varick came open, when Pastor Morrison was transitioning to Atlanta, they came and asked me, did I want to move back to the East Coast? And me and my wife, we accepted that offer. And so that's how I got to cold New Haven.
Oh, now it's cold. You know what?
It's hot now. But I remember. Yeah, I remember
coming from LA, you went to cold.
Yeah. The first day I pulled up, I was like, Lord, well, am I going to survive this? Yeah. But
well, you've been here 4 years.
It grew on me.
Did you know New Haven before you got here?
Nothing about it. Nothing about it.
Did you know New Haven before you got here?
Nothing about it. All I knew was
no cousins here, nothing?
No, nothing.
Okay. No, that's... Yeah. Oh, all right. So you've been here 4 years. What do you think now?
But I tell you, I have fallen in love with New Haven. I just love how everybody has an opinion about everything, and they don't mind verbalizing it with aggression. And so, yeah, it's a unique place. Very tribal.
Yes,
it's
that's
always
a good way to say that. Yes,
those who are natives against those who are transient, those who came in. And so sometimes I see people that say to me, well, he's not from here. Why are you so concerned about the community? And my thing is, no matter how long I've been here, if I pay taxes, any form, that the community belongs to me.
That's right.
And I belong to the community since I am spiritual leader. And so whether I've been here 50 years or 4 years, I'm New Haven now.
So when you got here, Reverend Steele, did you have a vision? Did you grow into a vision? Like, what was your thinking when you got here?
I did have a vision. And I want to say that my predecessor did a wonderful job with education, developing the Booker T. Washington Academy, a phenomenal pastor. And I was actually in his wedding, and we grew up together in South Carolina. And so that's what really connects us. And so he did a wonderful job.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. But when I first got there, I saw where Varick was positioned in the midst of the Dixwell community, which is one of the poorest communities in New Haven, right in the backyard of Yale. We won't get on Yale today. Right in the backyard of Yale. You know, they do a lot of great things for our community. And I saw the needs, the addiction needs. And so by seeing that, we established the A.M.E. Breakthrough Project, which we service over 100 people through a 14-week program. And we actually last year won a national honor for that program. And we partner with Yale for those who are dealing with addiction. And so we also provide a weekly soup kitchen for those who are experiencing food deserts, which, you know, our community are always left behind when it comes to fresh produce and healthy things. And so we do that, and we have an ongoing everyday food pantry. And so becoming that social enterprise that addresses the disparities in the community, that was my vision. And it is coming to pass, and it has come to pass. And we are just building and growing upon it.
Okay. So this level of activism, this marching and bringing people together, did you see that coming, and is this something that you're going to build in as something that Varick will take leadership on?
Oh yeah, we're definitely taking leadership on the social justice collaborative is not going away. We have a strong social justice ministry, and you may know Pat Solomon. She's very active in the community, and so she leads our community efforts there. And so I don't care what it is, from climate change all the way down to racism, we are addressing it because it affects us. And so this is not going away. This is not a phase. This is not a trend. But if whenever we have to march for something, you can expect that we will be on the front line.
That seems very progressive thought, or progressive thought and a variation. How did you get to be so progressive?
Well, well, being Black, being a millennial, you can't help but be progressive. And I give it with age. I'm very cultured.
Well, there is that.
Yeah, and then I have traveled, and so I've seen the South, I've seen the West. Now I'm experiencing the North, and you can't help but be progressive. You can't be stagnated, because stagnated things die.
So talk to me a little bit about, so you are planning to be here for as long as the A.M.E. oversight has you here, because I know that your denomination can move pastors and ministers around and all of that. So you'll be here for as long as you can be here. Where do you want to take Varick in this community? Varick has a rich history. It's part of the Underground Railroad. It has had some amazing folks head and lead this church. What is your vision for the future?
My vision for the future is to really cultivate a think tank of how to strategize and how to renovate and revive the Dixwell community. I have come in contact with some great people. I was in a conversation with Rodney Williams yesterday about, you know, if Black lives matters, does Black businesses matter? And so we have to not just look at one dimension of Blackness, but we need to really strategize and put together a plan and a proposal of how we're going to address the entire Black agenda, especially in the midst of this pandemic coming out. And so I consider myself a thought leader and a social leader, not one that has been elected, but one that people have kind of gravitated to in order to help them sort out their thoughts and their ideas. And so I see Varick as a hub, or as always, the Black church has been the center of the community, but a lot of us need to revive that. But to be there to speak on issues and to talk them out and to bring the community into solidarity and actually speak with one voice and get some things accomplished. And so
what is the size of the congregation?
Okay, Varick, I would say we have over.
Y'all have about 2 or 3 services on a Sunday.
Yes, I say we have 1,200 active members, and active, that's those who support, and but we have a lot of people on roll. You know how that goes in the church, but we claim 1,200 active members. You know, and so it's a fairly large church. And when we was meeting, we did have 3 services: 7:30, 9:30, and 11:30.
And so, because of COVID.
Because of COVID, we have to resort to
been doing
virtual, and it's been going good. We have been engaging more people virtually than we did physically. We average over 3,000 or more people a week virtually.
Really?
Yes, it's the virtual church has really picked up, and we're gaining new members, and the members are excited. And my phrase is click and live. Because why do we need to open the doors of the church this soon and expose our congregation to a virus when you can just click on a link and get the nourishment, spiritual nourishment that you need to grow? Click and live.
Yes. And so are you doing 3 services virtually too?
We are.
Really?
Yes. We do the 7:30 for those who get up early to be faithful to their service, and 9:30 and 11:30. We didn't want to really interrupt the pattern that we had on Sunday. And so we continue to do 3 services. Of course, I'm not preaching 3 services. It's just being replayed at the hours that we have services.
Oh, okay. All right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So talk a little bit about the church as historically as the leaders of protest. I mean, we all know Dr. Martin Luther King. We all know Reverend Abernathy. We have come through some of the toughest times in this country. Have been at the leadership of ministers and pastors alike. And now we're seeing a different sort of leadership of these young people coming through. And it was young people then. It was young people as ministers in those days. And I'm not seeing young people as ministers. I'm seeing young people as young people, just frustrated and angry. And so what can the message be to young people, Reverend Steele, about how to protest, how to be in protest? What can they learn from the church?
What they can learn from the church, historically, they can learn how the church was on the front line. And historically, they can see how the Black church helped perpetuate the civil rights movement. But I believe that in this era, that instead of them trying to learn from the church, I think the church needs to try to learn from the young people. Contrary to popular belief, that we need to be quiet a little and listen to the voices of young people, because I feel like the church has did a great disservice to the younger generation by not listening to their voices or even addressing their needs. And I will say, as a pastor, that some of my biggest fights in the community have come from older church leaders who did not really grasp progression, or those who had progressive thinking. And so I feel like we're in a season where the young people can teach us a whole lot. They come together. They don't have any hidden agendas. They have no egos, but they're coming together for one purpose. They're marching. They're doing teach-ins, and they're really engaging one another. And you don't have one person trying to be over the other person, or the other person trying to be more important than this person, or this person tearing down this person, which you find sometimes in structural hierarchies. And so I think we need to be quiet and sit down and ask, what can we learn from the young people? What can we learn from the millennials? What can we learn from the streets? Because, of course, their marches, they gather over thousands.
They do.
And so I do feel that, the church has a place, but I think in this season, we have ignored the voices of future generations for so long that they're not even in a position where they want to hear from the church. And they're asking the question, where is the church? Where is the Black pastor? When we was marching for other issues, where were they? And so it's kind of hard to just show up now.
That's a good point. I mean, you make a very good point. So in that same vein, talk to me a little bit about where the church could be in terms of political savviness. We've got a president in office that, by all accounts, mean Black people no good. I don't know how else to say that. Does the church have a role or continue role in educating its congregation and its members on what is important in terms of what to look for when they go to these polls? Do you see a role for yourself in the church in that?
Oh, definitely. Now, no matter how we have neglected the future generation or ignored them, the church still has a responsibility to address racism, economics, healthcare, and opportunity inequalities, as well as recognize the systems that work against the fair treatment of people. That's the church's position, because how can you preach Jesus and not walk out the life of Jesus? And everywhere Jesus went, he went to bring about equality. And we got to create opportunities for everybody responsible to take advantage of all that God has blessed us with in this nation. And we have to hold people accountable and responsible for their decision making. You know, no longer can you say, just because you black, I'm going to vote for you, I'm going to elect you, when you're not speaking for the issues in which I advocate for. You know, you could be white and I'll vote for you if our agendas are in alignment with one another. And so I believe sometimes in the black community and in the church, we get so narrow-minded and we play more into personality than we do into policies. And I'm to a point now where I'm mature. I just want policies to pass. Policies that says if a police officer shoot down our African-American men, that something will happen without us even having to raise a voice or even having to protest. The church has a responsibility. But the only thing with the church is that we have to learn how to speak with one voice. One voice.
Mm-hmm. And so what does one voice look like to you? Meaning that everyone should understand what's at stake. Everyone should kind of want the same thing. What does one voice look like?
One voice means we can disagree, but don't fight in public. The worst thing that a black community can do is attack one another in public. It shows fractures, it shows division. And I posted a statement on Facebook a couple of days ago that jealousy weakens black leadership. You know, we have to be together in as a black community, not agreeing on the same thing, but when we come out to fight for something, we have to have one voice. Although we have battled in the back room, in the boardroom together, when we go out, we need to stand united as a community and saying it's not about personality, but it's about moving our community forward. It's about policies being changed. It's about protecting our young people. It's about providing equality across the board. That's what I mean by one voice.
And so is that the idea, not just around Varick, but is that the idea around the social justice collaborative effort that you're doing, that to operate in one voice with not just with church people, but with business people and educators and whoever wants to join this collaborative?
Definitely creating one voice. But before you can have one voice, you got to be able to hear constructively to multiple voices. And so that's what this collaborative is about. Before we go out and make a bold statement, a bold move, we talk about it and we strategize, because you always must have the end result in play. It's one thing to protest, but what do you want? What are your demands? You know,
that's a good point. That's a good point, because I've heard this raised. I've heard some young folks who have been doing this organizing. I was talking to the Citywide Youth Coalition, Addis Castillo, the other day, yesterday at the Juneteenth celebration at Ivy Narrows in Newhallville. And she was talking about how these young people, they just don't want to protest. They want to show up with demands, and they want to see their demands met.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. I spoke with them as well, because you have to know how to properly articulate and formulate your commands. Because the fact of the matter is, white people don't understand black people. And that's just the truth. And I'm just a realist. You know, they don't understand our temperament. They don't understand the volume of our voice. They don't understand some of our terminology. And so you really have to be able to coin it so they can understand. You walking around with signs say defund and demantle. Soon as they see D, it automatically goes to a negative connotation, and they don't know what it means. It means destroy or do away with. And so you got to coin these phrases in a way that people can understand what you're talking about. Defund, what that means, defund the police department. What that means is taking some of their funding and put it into community programs that will minister or address the mental, issues and challenges of the community, which will, in a long term, prevent some of the crimes from occurring. Say that.
Yes. And that's right. Reallocation of resources, which is what I talked about with Addis and a couple other folks, the reallocation of resources. But I think when people hear defund the police department, they in their hearts and minds, they think, oh, get rid of police altogether. It's like, no, nobody's advocating getting rid of police. What we're advocating is the reallocation of resources so that, if you have an issue where you can send somebody else other than police, but they work for the police department, that might be the better thing to do.
Yeah.
Particularly if you have mental health issues or some other thing. Because I just heard, Reverend Steele, that, the majority of the calls that police get are not of a criminal nature.
I think 94%.
It's not a crime being committed. They just need some social services support. Right? Like it's usually some kind of supportive services that they need. And police are not trained to do that. So
no. And the thing is, when you see defund, demantle, that sounds sexy on a flyer. but when you are trying to negotiate with the police chief and elected officials, it doesn't go across too well. And you have to do a lot more explaining. And one thing that I learned in marketing is that you have to get to the point, and people ought to be able to see it and understand what it is.
Yes, because that puts the police in an adversarial role if they don't understand what you're talking about, because then they feel like they have to be on guard because you're trying to do away with their livelihood. At least that's how I'm imagining that's what they're thinking.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's what they're thinking. They want to dismantle me, defund me. It always goes back to the individual, statement. They trying to, defund me and dismantle me, and soon I'll be out of a job.
So, what is the collaborative planning moving forward, Reverend Steele?
What we're getting ready to do now, we have a couple projects in play. We're getting ready to kind of plan some small pop-up voter registration block parties in African American communities, because somehow we need to channel the frustration of protesting to votes and ballots. And so that's a plan. And we also are planning to work with John Lewis on coming up with a like an interactive seminar and workshop for our young people. As it pertains to, policing and, how to handle yourself and different things of that nature.
And now, on the one hand, we have police brutality. On the other hand, we have this health disparity around this COVID-19. So are you all looking to sort of do some work around educating or re-educating or paying people or raise?
Oh, can you repeat that for me? You was breaking
this
up.
This disease is.
Yeah, you was breaking up. Can you repeat that for me?
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I was talking about, on one hand, we have police brutality. On the other hand, we have COVID-19. What do you think the role ought to be around that? And are you all taking that on as part of social justice, since the disparity is so great with folks affected and affected by COVID-19 in our communities?
Oh yes, we're definitely taking that on. I've actually became a poster child for testing, and so I'm working on the governor's faith-based faith leaders task force, and one of my responsibilities was to help comprise the church reentry program, which protocol, which we did release, but also to identify locations in the African American community where we could put testing sites. And we have been successful with that. We have one across the street from our church at the Cornell Health. And we have some other pop-up sites that's getting ready to appear over the course of the next few weeks. And we're going to have a few testing, drive-up testings in our parking lot at Varick. And I've basically been working with this all over the state. And so we are still working diligently with this COVID-19 pandemic, but this other racism pandemic has kind of started crying louder. And so we kind of been multitasking and balancing both of them.
I mean, I've never seen in the history since I've been a grown person, these dual fights that we have to have with the COVID-19 and with police brutality. And then you mix in loss of jobs. I don't know what your congregation makeup is in terms of people out of work, but I'm sure you must be feeling some of the effects of people on unemployment and without work.
But strangely, I haven't heard any. I haven't really heard of people complaining about the weightiness of the moment. But I tell you, it's hard to be Black in this time, in this culture. Not just, because you got pre-existing conditions, not just because you're scared to walk out of the door when you see a police officer, so it's so much going on with Black people. And so, but I haven't really heard of a lot of people in my congregation that have lost jobs. But I can say that the giving and the support of the church has gone up tremendously. And so,
giving to the community, like food pantries and that kind of thing.
No, financial giving,
okay.
Tithing and offering, as well as giving to the community, because we're doing a food thon where people are donating food. And actually, my birthday is tomorrow, and so I told them,
"Happy birthday!"
Thank you. 38 years old, and so
oh my God, you're a baby.
I'm so old. All this gray hair. But I told them, instead of giving me gifts, because Varick, they love to, shower their pastor with gifts, and I love and appreciate them. And I told them, instead of giving me gifts, to donate food items to our food pantry so that we can continue to feed the community in honor of my birthday.
Mm-hmm. So, well, you can't have a party this year because everything is difficult and challenging and social distancing. So I would imagine that you're not going to get away without having some celebration of some sort as the pastor.
Mm. Yes, I'll get away. They're probably going to surprise me with something.
Of course they are.
But they have been very creative. I tell you, they did a honk and wave appreciation, and I tell you, and I really appreciate them.
That's good. So tell me a little bit about your hopes and dreams for the future of Varick and where you want to take it. Where do you see it into the future? And is the church still the church into the future?
Well, I must say I'm very optimistic about where we're going in the future with the Dixwell community, where Eric Clemens and his organization is getting ready to develop the plaza. The Q House is going up. And so I'm optimistic. And so you can't allow the community to grow around you without you growing and advancing. And so, but I think that we really need to be looking for more ministry space in order to accommodate our social ministries, because our next big project is to establish a center where we have a physician on staff Monday through Friday to minister to those who have addictions and those who do not have insurance, that they have a site in the midst of their community that they're able to go into. And so we're getting ready to formulate that and put it into place. And so we'll have our first clinic. I believe the first church in New Haven that has its own clinic.
Wow.
And so we have now a doctor on staff who's a mental health and addiction specialist at Yale, Dr. Ayana Jordan, who formed the A.M.E Breakthrough Project, which we host. And so she's our social and health concern.
She's my sorority sister.
Oh, you know Dr. Jordan? Oh, she is amazing. She's our director of health and social concerns. Yeah, she's amazing.
I've not talked to her in a while, but yes, she's amazing. And this is the second time this week her name has come up to me. So I need to send her a text when I get off this conversation with you.
Okay.
Because I think God has directed me to get up with her, because I've heard her name a couple of times already this week, and it's only Tuesday. So
oh yeah, she's doing some amazing things as it deals with mental health and addiction in the Black church. And I think her voice is one that should be heard.
I mean, I think you're onto something, Reverend Steele, because I don't think the medical profession really understands Black people's reluctance to show up in spaces where historically have not been welcoming to us, particularly hospitals and clinics and things like that, and around mental health. We have a history of being mistreated in those spaces. And I say mistreated, I use a light, we're not far from Tuskegee experiments. We're not far from a lot of things that have happened to us at the hands of the medical profession. So I understand when we don't show up to the hospital, or when we show up to the emergency room when it's like at the dire need. So maybe having a clinic that speaks to us in a way that other places can't might be a good idea.
That's true, and it's so strange that you said that with that syphilis project that occurred. I also sit on Yale's School of Medicine Cultural Ambassadors Board, and before a clinical trial is able to be released into the African American community, it has to come before our board, and they have to present it to us, and we have to examine the the racial sensitivity of it as it relates to Black people, because Black people are skeptical of a lot of these clinical trials and all of this new medical stuff that's going on. They don't understand it. And so it's our job to kind of vet it and see will it be beneficial for African Americans. So we're working on that as well. I tried to at the table to really discuss that with Yale, because a lot of times Black people, they don't like going to the doctor. And I'm from the South, and I can tell you that my people rarely went to the doctor unless it was something horrific going on with them.
Right. Until it was like at the, almost, very dire situations that send us to the hospital. Yes, I understand that. So I really enjoyed this conversation, Reverend Steele. I hope I can have you come back on for a bigger conversation, because I really enjoyed this, and I'd like to hear more about the social justice collaborative, and maybe have some folks from the collaborative and you all come on and let's have a bigger conversation about some of that work and what it would look like moving forward.
That would be great. That would be great. Just let us know. And I definitely enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much. I think I might tune in on an early Sunday morning and hear the service. Get the word, get the nourishment. I might do that.
Click and live. Click and live.
Click and live.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. I so appreciate your time this morning, even with all the technical glitches that we've had. I so appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a good day. You
too, sir.
Yeah.
And thank you, Harry Jones, for trying to work through these technical difficulties. Yeah.